Good night. Video 48D, ESB 300% profit. Now, I often wonder, was the idea of deregulation ever a good one? You have to have one set of cables and wirings running through any country, and Ireland is no exception. If you had 5 electricity providers, you'd have to 5 sets of cables. You'd have to, instead of one set of pylons, you'd have to have 5. Each one would own their own. And in parts of the world, and in early America, that actually did take place for a while. So you can't really have several companies owning the wire, owning the cables. And the same with gas or anything like that. But you have several companies who import fuel into Ireland and who sell it on with lorries and all the rest. And you have a number of companies who generate electricity. But what is the point of that? The state assumes control. The state, by assuming control, can put the wires, cables on people's land, and they do that without compliance with the law. They're supposed to compensate everyone where the cables are. But the state takes upon itself to do that. So in early England, which is more or less the same law as Ireland, the railway companies were able to get land and get it through Parliament for private companies to build railroads. But if it's the case that government takes control of energy, and particularly the generation of electricity, that's a decision, that's a political decision. Because, as I say about the wiring, it's not very practical to have it otherwise. It's a good job they're not in control of coal, oil and gas, which is brought in by private companies, because that gives some little bit of real competition. But this article in the Irish, this is the Irish Mail on Sunday, and this paper is the only one I find is printing anything about the scandals that's going on. So just as we have huge energy costs, huge fuel poverty, and a mess made of our electricity system and the gas system by the Irish government, successive Irish governments who are elected by our neighbours, we have this headline here. Now, rather than read every bit of it, I'll just tell you what it says. ESB won't say if 300% profit means bigger bonuses for executives. But it goes on here to show some of the main companies. And one of them is Bord Gáis. And it's British multinational PLC Centrica that owns that. Now, how can it possibly make economic sense to throw a company like that, who doesn't own the cables, by the way, and give it to a foreign company to make profit? Why does that make sense in a monopoly situation? And the other one is SSE Electricity. Now, when you go back to Bord Gáis, it says here that it has 730,000 Irish companies, 730,000 Irish customers, and it has 355 employees. And its head is Dave Kerwin, left, managing director in Ireland, and he's getting a salary of worth, with everything in, 1.148 million. 1.48 million. So he's getting 1.48, 1.5. Sorry, get that again for you. 1.15 million of a package. Not bad. And the profits of that company are up 74%. Now, the only way the profits can be up is if they're adding on, they're charging people too much. You'd think with the electricity, gas prices and all that, and the fuel prices, they'd reduce a bit. Now, the other thing is that is SSE, that's the Scottish Electricity Crowd of rascals. I know a bit about them. Them crowd is 1,000 Irish employees. I wouldn't touch these with a barge pole. I'm just giving my opinion. They have 800,000 Irish homes and customers. The head is Alistair Philip Davies, right? And his salary is 4.5 million in 2001. Now, I'm not just too sure if that's just the Irish part, or is he getting it from the whole operation. So The profits rose by 15%, and they'll say, "Oh, that's great performance. It's great performance." They have a monopoly situation. They're not a genuine competition. Not genuine competition. There is virtually no energy regulator. The other one is Energia, and it's a US owned by Squared Capital. It's 1,010 Irish employees, Irish customers 258,000 homes, and its head is Ian Tern, Thren, and he's on 2.8 million a year as well. And profits and earnings rose to 200 million from 194 million, 40% dividend. 40 million dividend paid to Cayman Islands parent. So the Cayman Islands got 40 million profit from our electricity bill. The Cayman Islands, folks, in case you don't know, right? Or Gash, Centrifuga, they're about Spain or something. Gone, money gone. And the Scottish groups in Scotland, as far as I understand. And you have power pay, prepay. This is what a lot of idiots think. Oh, prepay, oh, it's great. Oh, it's just great. Oh, prepay, great. They knew when they had it a year or two, they're all going away from it now. It's far more expensive. And so it's privately owned by financier Uric Kenny, founder of Cahill Fay Tech, entrepreneur Andrew Collins, Irish employees 250, 160,000 homes supplied, and head is Cahill Fay. Well, Fay is an Irish name, and the salary is just over $1 million, and pre-tax profits are 14 million. Now, it appears to be an Irish company, I have to say. Ulrich Kenny looks like it. I don't see any mention of a foreign company. Now, the big one then is Electric Ireland. That's the former ESB, and owner by the semi-state firm, the ESB, so the public own this. They have 7,870 employees with the ESB. They have Irish customers, 1.3 million customers. Their head is Paddy Hayes, and his salary and perks was 4.3 million, and other managers and board members. Profits after tax trebled in the year to 390 million. And perks under government rules, ESB Chief Executive Paddy Hayes is not entitled to performance bonus. So at least to have that kind of cut down on him anyway, and he doesn't need it. What does he want it for? Now, you have to remember, with some of these big jobs, a person could be in there for 3 years, could leave or be put out and never get another job. So it's not just always, you have to average out what they earn over a period. It's different with a nurse who might get less, but she gets it for good and gets a pension, whereas some of these don't. But in any event, the article goes on here about it, whether this is right or not. Now, it's a funny thing about economics, that it's acknowledged in economics that if the government puts a tax, let's say on tomatoes, we'll say, puts a very severe tax, that the vendors, the people selling, will absorb some of that tax to keep their customers. So they'll actually take some of the tax and pay it themselves. In this case, nobody's paying anything. There should be only a very small profit, and there should be modest income and all that for these people. But they're allowed to do what they like. It is, in my view, I don't see whatever the benefit of deregulation, as it was called. Now, don't forget, there's a few generating companies. ESB is a huge generating company, and they have a lot of that. And Airgrid has generators, and there's a few private generators, and then it's fed into one pool, and then these crowd buy the electricity and sell it on to the customers, and they're supposed to manage to have competition. That is not competition. It is not competition. The ESB is the monopoly. Now, this fella in the ESB, who is Paddy Hayes, don't forget the Derrybrain wind farm. They pushed this. They had us fined 5 million plus 1,500 euros a day over it because it was built in contravention of the regulations. They claim wind energy works, and they're out building more and more and more. And don't forget what I said. Very few people believe me, but nobody has challenged me on it. Wind energy gets the same as the fossil fuel price. Wind energy gets the same as the fossil fuel price, except when the fossil fuel price falls through the floor, wind energy gets a guaranteed price. Nobody wants to believe that. That's not published on any paper. Although a person was telling me I met that Sean O'Rourke on one of the morning programs did say this. He did say it. And it's kind of skirted over in a way that this is the case. So it is coming out a wee bit, but still it's been suppressed deliberately. So the whole thing about it is we're as well with one big ESB. Uh, what's the advantage of bringing in all these people, sending all that money? Everything our government does is to send money out of the country. There is no reason for it. Deregulation has been a failure. In many parts of the world now, they're realizing that, and they're starting now to go back again to just one company under state control. Now, I'm the very man that always said the government is the most fearsome, awful, corrupt organization you can have. But when it has to own something, for example, like the court system, or the police or Gardaí, or the Navy or the Army, when it does have to take charge, or the roads in some cases, then it's up to the citizens to make sure they do a good job. And they're loaded with nonsense. They're learning our business degree courses that tell them a load of nonsense, and they're not up to the job, and that's going to get worse if the government is to run electricity. And because of all these wires and cables that have to be there, I actually don't see a way of extricating or taking away government control from it. Well, then you're better in for the whole thing. This thing about being half government and half not, and having new people, none of these companies, none of them, you see the pictures of them there, none of them result in any benefit. There's just the one thing I will say, and I have to be honest. I have accounts with ESB, and they're all right, but they're always ringing and annoying you. Board Gosh is not as bad. I throw the bill there at the farm. I don't have to pay it for a long time. They never bother me, funny enough, and then I go in and I pay it whenever I get time. And they did give me a refund. They charged me too much, and they gave me a refund. So I'd say that just on the human aspect of it, Board Gosh is probably a decent or slightly decenter company, and I'd have to give that. It's a British multinational, and generally speaking, British companies tend to be a bit better than most, not just as greedy. So I have to be honest and say that. However, why can't all companies be relatively decent? Why are they pulling all this money out? We go back even to the one that I tend to like, Board Gosh. Profits are up 74%. Why are profits up? Why don't they take that money and pay the bills for the all with it and put a little bit on top of 20% and make do with that? Why do they have to rim it just when we're in people are not able to pay their bills, when the government is trying to bail out houses that can't pay their electricity bills? Why do we have a monopoly situation with no we do have an energy regulator who's futile. I met him. I met not at the races at all, and who will do nothing. And the answer to this goes back to what I say to you all the time, folks. The only way to replace this and improve this, and it may never happen, is to chuck out the whole Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, and Labour, and Sinn Féin, the whole lot. This is going to go on as long as those crowd are there. I can't just say Sinn Féin 100% because there's always the possibility that they might surprise us, but they're socialist. It doesn't look good. As for the EU, it is trying to bring in a windfall tax. Just imagine this. Why do you have to tax energy companies, electricity companies, to get something off the cream that they've collected? Why not make them or get involved in their pricing so that they have to give the money off the bills in the first place? So the government allows them charge too much, and then the government tries to put on some kind of a tax to get more money for themselves. Why not ensure that their pricing structure is modest and adequate, and that all their executives just get enough to do them? Why can't that happen? It can't happen because that's the nature of the beast. It's just nearly as bad in England. But there is no reason, if we really wanted to tackle it, why the government couldn't do something. You just look at the Gardaí. The government was so embarrassed by successive commissioners acting the goat and messing that they took out the commissioner from the Guards and put in a stranger from Northern Ireland, which appears to be going reasonably well. You need to take the head of these people, take them out and put them out and put in someone who's going to do it right and knows what they're doing. And that they could do it. They were able to do it because they were afraid that the way the Gardaí was going with the Morris McCabe Tribunal and several others, they knew this was never ever going to end. Never ever going to end if they didn't get rid of all the any commissioner who came up through the ranks. Although there were plenty of decent people there who would do the job, they couldn't get up that far. So it's the same with this. You need to take the head off. It's the same with RTE. You have a woman there who's a disaster. You need to take them out. You need to put in people who know what they're about and who can deal with it and run it. Even you have to pay them big money and bring them in from abroad. The benefits will be reaped. I was talking to a retired retired policeman today, and he told me that now people going for promotion don't go through the local superintendent or chief superintendent at all. They go through a computer system to fill in the form, and it's all civil service servants that decide who gets the job. And that takes out the existing unofficially corrupt middle rank and relatively senior ranks that have been proven not to be up to the job, from at least appointing those who come after them, and eventually we may see a benefit from that. And it's the same with all of these. You've got to take out the gravy train. You've got to make sure that this doesn't happen, and you can't do that by being a monopoly with one hand and an independent, free commercial company on the other. It doesn't work that way. The state has to be involved in some things, not all. If they don't hurry up soon, and I think they won't hurry up soon, there's going to be massive default on bills, no matter how much the government pays. And if the government's not able to pay, you're going to see the whole electricity companies going wallop and needing a bailout. They're already getting a bailout, only it's through the consumers, because they feel they'll vote for the government. That's all that is. They're getting a bailout already. So why is all this happening? It's happening because of the old story. The biggest problem we have in Ireland and in many parts of the world is government. I just want to bring that to your attention anyway. I would have thought if I were running an electricity company or a gas company or both, and in these stringent times I'd cut back well and give any little gravy, any little extra back to consumers, and in particularly try and ease the burden on some people who are finding it very hard to pay bills. There is huge default. There could be up to 1 in 10 bills defaulted, and I'd say even with the government handouts, I'd say that there'll be at least 1 in 15 defaulted by January. And they're going to go around and cut the electricity off and have it in the paper, or some poor old lady died of hypothermia. This is how critical it is on what has happened in the last while to bring these people out and expose them. Will your neighbour change their vote? Not until not until somebody belonging to them dies. There's going to have to be deaths all over Europe. I hope it doesn't come to that. It's too big a price to pay. But if that's what happens, and there are deaths and then uproar, then we might see some little change. We might see people beginning to realise how they're just the victims of a massive Ponzi scheme and corruption in Ireland, in the European Union, and indeed in many other parts of the world. Folks, that's it. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. We'll see you back for something else, and it just shows you. I mean, you just cannot keep up with these rascals. See you back, right? Thank you.